Hey, what's happening, everybody? The Job Guys back with you one more time on the road to SummerSlam. It's Nick Hortz. It's Ryan Slocum. Thank you for joining us one more time. Thank you for watching all our other shows. If you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. Help us out. You can like it as well. And hopefully we have a show here today, Nick, that they will like. We are going to go back to the biggest, no question it was the biggest, at Wembley Stadium, 80,355 fans. Nick, we are going back to review SummerSlam 1992.
Summerfest.
What a year 92 was, Nick. This is another one of those strange shows. A lot of people like it, some don't. When you go back, what's the first thing you think of, Nick, when you talk about SummerSlam 1992?
Right behind me, probably, right? Either this amazing crowd, a live, biggest, if I'm not mistaken, this is the largest since 3, right?
Absolutely.
This is the biggest since 3. Not even close.
And I believe the fourth biggest crowd still to this day that they've ever had.
29, and then there's, I forget which the other
32.
ones. Okay, those are the big dogs. So yeah, you got that kind of in your head, and I think we all know, and I will leave it, spoiler, we'll wait for it. There's a legendary match on this card,
No doubt.
It is one of the greatest. So those are the two big things I think about when I think about SummerSlam 92. The crowd and that big match.
Absolutely. And for me, that is my favorite match of all time. My single favorite to this day, favorite match of all time. The rest of the card is just kind of like,
look at all of this crap.
We will see. But again, my biggest takeaway from this is I was an avid watcher back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching Superstars every single week. And all of a sudden, everything changed. Everything changed, much like WrestleMania 8, except for this time it changed a whole lot quicker than 8. They had some time before that. We are about a month out in the middle of July. You had all these angles that they were working toward, and then they just drop all of them. Now, we didn't know. I knew because my father used to bring home the Detroit News, and every Friday there was a wrestling article, non-kayfabe wrestling article in that paper. And it said SummerSlam was supposed to be at the Cap Center, where the Washington Capitals play, just outside Washington, D.C. in Landover. And then they changed their mind. They started going to Wembley. That's where they were going to go. Now, look, we're in 92. And if you remember, if you weren't around back then, if you watched our WrestleMania 8 show, dude, 92 was the middle of the scandals, all the problems that happened with the WWE, the steroid scandal right there at the beginning of the year almost, steroid scandal, the sexual assault scandal, talking about Mel Phillips and Terry Garvin and Pat Patterson. Like, all this stuff was going on. They weren't drawing very well in the States. So I don't know if that's what it was. They did do the tour right after WrestleMania 8 in Europe. They're selling out all over the place. I don't know if that's what it was. Hey, we can maybe sell a ton over here. So they just up and decide they're going to Wembley, and they drop everything. They sell 80,000 tickets in 10 hours. Good move by Vince.
92 was that crazy year. Hogan, gone. Sid, playing softball. It just, these guys, and I really feel you got some really bad gimmicks coming in that summer. And after WrestleMania 8, you really had some bad characters that have, we'll talk, maybe not have stood the test of time.
And they kept getting worse too.
Yeah.
That was the thing. You're looking at 92, all of a sudden, the Repo Man is there. Crush is there.
Berserker.
The Berserker. You've got a lot of stuff here going on. And then obviously you get into 93, 94, and you're looking at the ones you hear about all the time, Duke the Dumpster and the Goon and all this stuff. Let's go through it here, because this card, again, I want to go to the Superstars specifically, The Superstars episode on July 11th. Bret's wrestling. HBK cuts a promo on Bret. They're talking the entire time about how HBK is the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. They talk about it every week. Later on, Undertaker's fighting a match. Berserker, a few weeks earlier, had tried to stab him with his sword. On this one, he comes down. Fuji throws salt in Paul Bearer's eyes. They throw salt in the Taker's eyes. They beat him up.
McIntyre, I think, studied at the same place Drew did.
Yes, with the sword. Yes,
yeah, with the sword.
Linda or Carla or whatever the name of his sword is. No one cares.
What's your name? I don't care. Shut your mouth.
The model is wearing Tatanka's feathers, which they had fought at WrestleMania 8. They were going to have a rematch at SummerSlam over these feathers. He's cutting a promo with the feathers. This is all on July 11th, Nick. Then at the very end of the show, and remember, these shows are taped like a month earlier. All of a sudden, they throw an insert into the show, a little insert package, and it's Lord Alfred Hayes talking about the homeland. And then at the end, it says, SummerSlam coming to London.
Very informative we are.
And then Vince says, we're going to have the main event for you next week. We're going to announce it. They go to Mean Gene, and they announce Ultimate Warrior against Macho Man for the title. There was no build-up for this. The entire summer, it was Macho against Flair. They had the pictures of him and Elizabeth at the pool and all this. They were doing that. All of a sudden, that changes. No, now we've got two good guys fighting each other for no reason.
Warrior was with Shango, right?
Warrior all summer was fighting against Papa Shango. He was making his head bleed. He's making his arm. They were supposed to. Before that, he was fighting Sid.
That's right.
And then Sid leaves. Now he's fighting Papa Shango.
Bleeding. Wasn't he bleeding down his face?
Down his head, hit out of his arms and all this. Mean Gene had it coming out of his arms. He made him puke. Remember when he made him puke?
Good. Yep.
Like the Exorcist, they just straight drop it. Taker against Berserker, as we said. The model Tatanka. LOD was in the title picture. Probably going to fight Money Inc.
Yeah,
all of a sudden, they dropped
the titles on July 20th. LOD drops to the, really almost less a month before they dropped those titles.
And then the Bulldog is feuding with the Repo Man, of all people.
Suffering succotash, son.
So we said they come out of nowhere with that main event. The very next week, and I went back and I watched all of these Superstars and challenges. They are on the network.
Okay.
The next week, we've got some more matches for you. They announce Bret's fighting the Bulldog. What? Undertaker's fighting Kamala.
Out of nowhere.
Kamala's nowhere.
Just here now. Okay.
Just out of nowhere for both of those matches. The only one they kind of set up a little bit, the model was fighting Bret. He had him in the, what do you call it? The Boston Crab. Excuse me.
Sharpshooter, yeah, or whatever. Maybe,
no,
right?
Model had to win.
Oh, that's right. And didn't he punch him or something?
Michaels came out and punched him through the ropes for no reason. For no reason. And now they start fighting. So anyway, the entire card gets completely changed. As you said, I don't know if the original one's any better, but all I can think of is we need to sell 80,000 tickets. What's our best two guys? Who's our two most over dudes?
Not Flair.
Who's not even on the card.
I should be said. They said Macho and Warrior are going to draw the tickets.
And Bulldog for a title.
And obviously, because yes, it's his country, whatnot. Yep. But I mean, right there for the Flair people, they're literally saying these two guys are bigger than Ric Flair. I mean, you had a whole summer. That Macho Man feud was not done because, as a matter of fact, he drops the belt to Flair later. I think like a month later, right? At the house show or something.
The next day, September 1st.
Drops the belt to Flair. And, for some reason, that wasn't going to happen at SummerSlam.
Yeah, and and Macho and Elizabeth were like breaking up at this point. So there's so many rumors out there. Like, well, did Macho need time off? Well, not really. He goes right into a feud with Razor Ramon after this. And they wanted to get the belt off him. There's rumors that Flair was hurt. I went back. Our friends at the history of WWE.com, Richard Land does a great job over there, went through and looked at everything. Flair works an entire schedule that summer. He's there the whole time. The question is, Flair couldn't even fought anybody. I mean, he is in that last match. He has in the title match. He obviously plays a role.
Perfect's gonna fight at the Survivor Series, right?
Well, that's for a different reason, but yeah.
Right. But was he unable to go at this point? Was Perfect unable to go?
So he had a Lloyd's of London insurance policy on his back, and Lloyd's of London is this high, whatever, celebrity insurance thing, and he could not fight. He would not get his insurance payout if he wrestled.
Okay.
So he had to retire. Vince must have given him a little bit more out of nowhere in November once they had the problems when they had to fire Warrior and the Bulldog. He must have made it worth his while to cancel his Lloyd's of London.
Those are two big names that you just lost. So that you
right.
Just
well, and
off.
Again, how about 92? You mentioned Sid and Hogan are gone. By the end of the year, Bulldog's fired. Warrior's gone.
Flair
leaves in the middle of January. I mean, wow. LOD leaves the day after this show. I mean, it is just a crazy, crazy year.
Bret Hart's fighting Hakushi or something for the
that wasn't for a minute. But that's another thing. People will say, why? Well, the reason why Warrior and Papa Shango didn't fight, well, because people were mad about the voodoo stuff, and parents were upset about the voodoo and it's scary and all this. Well, that's not true either.
I was gonna say, I don't know.
Because he fights Bret Hart right after this, who wins the belt.
Saturday night's main event.
Well, and he's coming down. He's coming down for no reason. Before SummerSlam, he comes down and gets in his face and distracts him and all this stuff. So very strange, dude. It's just a strange year. But the people in England didn't care because they're getting their first ever pay-per-view, Nick.
That's awesome.
They're getting the first one they ever got. So they sold this thing out, like we said, obviously, in just a few minutes. So let's get to the show, man. As we said, 80,000. They open with that montage of fans outside. They got the Masterpiece Theater music going. Then they get into the arena and showing just how big it is and everything. We haven't seen a site like this. WrestleMania 8 had 65,000, but it didn't quite look like this because, Nick, I don't watch soccer, and back then I didn't have cable.
Me neither, but soccer
wasn't on here. I never seen Wembley Stadium before. So to me, it's like, holy cow, wow, this is something, you know.
It was a sight, man. It was breathtaking, awe-inspiring. I mean, you just looked at it and you were blown back. I mean, this, like I said, the closest thing to WrestleMania 3.
Well, and you used a few words that Vince didn't, because he keeps saying this throughout the night, but he starts, "Welcome to the grandeur, the pageantry, the spectacle." Yeah, words like no wrestling fan has ever used in their life. But he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. So it's cool, man. And dude, the crowd is hot. The crowd is hot.
For practically every match. I mean, I think Nails got booed. They're there. I mean, they're just excited. I mean, that would be for anything. You know, if I only had the chance to, even if you knew it was coming once a year, you're still going to get hyped up. I mean, you look now, the crowds in Saudi Arabia are freaking hype when they go there because they don't have it all the time, man. You don't get to do that all the time. You know, you go certain places where this does not exist.
Well, and think about it. They haven't gotten up since, dude. 29 years later, they've never been back for a real pay-per-view. So, first match, LOD against Money Inc. You know, we thought this was going to be one of those main event matches. It ends up being the curtain jerker. Turns out Hawk is not doing well during this time. Substance abuse issues and whatnot. Apparently, according to Animal, he got in a fight with Vince during this time. And so they decide not to put the titles on him. He actually failed a drug test at this show and doesn't go back to America with Animal. He wants to quit. Animal said, okay, but let's finish our dates out. He doesn't go. He goes straight to Japan. He just says, screw it. Leaves Animal by himself. So LOD against Money Inc., which I know you're a huge Ted DiBiase fan.
Love Ted.
What do you think about this match?
Would have been better if it had the belts involved. And see, as a kid, remember, again, we're looking at it 2021, internet. We know the dirt sheet. We know the documentaries that have come out, the story. I had no clue what was going on with Hawk at that point in time. I was like, this match would have been so much better if it had been for the gold. And I understand everything you're saying, why it can't be. LOD, I thought it was a good match. I don't really have a problem with the match. It's at least got bigger names. It's one of the better matches on the card, in my opinion. LOD walks away with the victory, but it just kind of felt weird. Their LOD is curtain jerking in a non-title match.
Right. They just came back too,
Right off the bat. I mean, it's still cool. It was still hype. The crowd goes nuts for Legion of Doom.
Yeah. Well, and they say apparently Hawk is hammered at this show. I watched it and I was looking for it. Like there was a few times that you could have went like maybe, but people are acting like he couldn't even walk, and I didn't see that. But I don't know, whatever. My biggest takeaway from they come out sweet, dude. They're on bikes. This is before
awesome.
The Undertaker. We've never seen people come into the ring on motorcycles before. They're rolling down on motorcycles. They got their spikes on. They look hard as heck. And then Paul Ellering comes, and sitting on his handlebars is a freaking puppet.
Hi there, fellas.
Yeah.
A puppet.
Bogus!
A ventriloquist dummy.
You big dummy.
And even 12-year-old Slope was like, you just ruined the Legion of Doom.
Look at you, giant idiot.
Never been a fan of Paul Ellery with them. I don't know why. I know people do. I never thought they needed a manager. It was just me.
Dude, a few weeks before this, for no reason, LOD goes back to their old neighborhood. They go back to their old neighborhood, dude. Everything's burned down. They're like at a house or an apartment complex or something that's leveled, and they're walking around and they can't believe the old neighborhood is so trashed, and they're supposed to be from the south side of Chicago and all this. And then they find something. Hey, what is this? Hey, look, I found something. It's Rocco, the ventriloquist dummy.
You're a big dummy.
Who is in perfect shape, by the way. Everything around them is burned to a crisp. Rocco is perfect. And they start talking about, Rocco's my best friend. He's my best friend. We used to tell Rocco everything back in the day. He used to help us with, I could tell Rocco anything when I was a kid.
Is Pritchard writing this?
No, he's actually gone at this point.
Okay,
he starts back the next day. He was fired at this point. But dude, some friends they left him at a burnt ghetto. Yeah, real nice friends.
Get lost, dummy.
This is literally the exact opposite of everything that made LOD cool for the last whenever they started, 84, 85, whatever it was. This couldn't be less cool. It neutered the LOD. It really did. And if they didn't leave after this show, they would have been toast if they would have kept going with this Rocco stuff. It's just bad. If you go watch the Superstars and things, Rocco, while they're wrestling, Rocco gets in the camera and talks and starts chanting LOD and talking about the guys they're fighting suck and all this. It's bad. It's
what
bad.
You're saying is puppets and guys with puppets suck.
Diarrhea. Moving on.
I'm sorry.
But he didn't have giant spikes. Did he have giant spikes?
I don't know, but
he did have a mask.
Yeah, it's still puppets are puppets, man. They shouldn't be in wrestling.
So we go to the backstage.
Hated Sacco too.
Virgil is back there. Virgil cuts the best and maybe only good promo of his career. Unfortunately, for Mr. Virgil, I couldn't stop laughing because his nose was running and dripping into his mouth the entire interview. Dang it. I mean, it's going right in, man. Right in. So that's all I can think about now. He fights Nails. That's the second match on this card. We're not even going to get into the dark matches that are apparently on the UK version. We've never seen them. Who cares? They were like the Berserker and Tito Santana. Come on.
Yeah.
So Virgil, he's fighting because he's buddies with the boss man. Nails obviously says he got mistreated in jail by the boss man. He came out and absolutely murdered the boss man. And laid him up, and he doesn't know if he's ever going to be able to wrestle again. Virgil decides he's going to get his revenge. Nick, continue.
I have a question for you. We talked on the 88 one. Was this another one where they didn't want to give away Boss Man and Nails? Why isn't not Boss Man and Nails at this pay-per-view?
He literally just got
it. Just happened because I was off on the
laid up, and they do fight at the Survivor Series.
This guy was a Kane gimmick. Well, he's what I thought Kane would be. This guy just came in for like a match with the boss man, and that's all we need you for. We're done. Talk to you later. Peace.
Well, he physically assaulted Vince McMahon and got fired.
That'll do it too. But yeah, no one can look at me and say this guy was going to make it. Like, this gimmick is just terrible.
It's a one-off gimmick. What do you do after the guy you said beat you up? Then what do you do?
Yeah, you either get revenge or you don't, and then what are you here for? You know,
that Kane comparison's good. I've never thought about that.
I thought Kane was coming in to wrestle the one match at WrestleMania versus the Taker, and I thought I'm not kidding. I mean, obviously it worked out. People liked him. Whatever, doesn't matter if I do. The people did a lot. But I swear to God, I thought he was coming in. Taker beats him at WrestleMania, and it was just because they were in an era where they didn't have dudes. They needed dudes, and they were just plugging a dude for the Undertaker to beat at WrestleMania. Right. I had no clue that guy was going to stay longer, much less 20 freaking years later. But yeah, match is terrible. I don't even know. It's not even worth watching. I mean, this is just an awful match. I think Nails ends up winning.
Luckily, it's only like 3.5 minutes, but
yeah, but it's just Virgil is done at this. Virgil was another character, ironically, the exact same as Nails, if you kind of will. When he was done with the $1 Million Man, what do you do with this dude?
Right.
Like, I mean, what? I mean, I'm not saying, because we talked earlier, the dude's got a good build. The dude can work a little bit in the ring. You were talking, he can talk a little bit, but they just never moved him off. He was just, Virgil had the $1 Million Man, and then he was nothing.
And then what? Yeah. Then he became a jobber. If you don't know anything about Nails, obviously you see we put up a couple pictures here, but we told you his backstory. He wrestled in his prison garb or uniform, whatever you want to call it, the orange jumpsuit. He wrestles in this. So Nails, let me get this straight now. He is in Cobb County Jail or prison or whatever. He gets out. So he flies from Atlanta, Georgia to London, but he didn't bother to stop at like J.C. Penney's or something and buy some clothes. Like, this guy, he didn't have time. I got to get to London.
Didn't alarm anybody on the plane either.
No,
Mom, there's just a convict sitting next to me.
Going and holding this nightstick, which, by the way, have you ever noticed this? I didn't notice it till I watch it again because I always fast forward every Nails match. You ever notice that Nails looks exactly like Jeff Daniels in Dumb and Dumber when he's sitting on the toilet. If you ever know, dude, I'm telling you.
I will now.
It's just, you're not going to be able to unsee it, dude. He is a spitting image when he's doing the thing of Jeff Daniels sitting on the toilet.
I don't. Do you remember? Maybe it was just me because I was kind of falling. I was still watching, but falling out of wrestling around 92, 93 to become just a casual viewer over a diehard viewer. We're hitting that really bad era. I couldn't figure out. Was it like Nails? Did he escape? Is that why he was still in the jumpsuit? Like and they alluded that he did. You know, I don't think they were ever like clear on that. I'm like. And if he escaped, aren't they like he's wrestling on national television? Right. Shouldn't someone be coming to get him? You know, and that if he didn't escape, why the hell is he still in the jumpsuit? Like, I don't understand. Every freaking movie you see where the dude is released from jail, there's always that scene where they get their stuff back, you know, and they get their watch and their clothes and everything. He just didn't have that scene.
Yeah,
like
he couldn't wear what he was wearing when he went to jail.
No, I don't know. He's awful. This is as bad as the earlier Patera Bad News. I'd rather watch Patera and Bad News.
Dude, it's bad. It is bad. It really is.
Awful.
And this feud goes through Survivor Series when the guy finally gets fired after that. HBK fighting the Model. As we said, he was originally supposed to fight Bret for the IC belt. Instead, we go with this pretty arrogant guys against each other. They're so pretty that they can't punch each other in the face. Sherry is with HBK at this point. And the Model kind of starts flirting with her a little bit. You wonder whose side is she going to be on? Is she going to stay with HBK? Or is she going to screw him and then move over here? What's going to happen? Nick, this match, you kind of liked it there for a minute, you said, but then by the end, you didn't.
I remember going back and watching. I'm like, because I like the Model. I know, and if you go back, I think we exaggerate how good the Model, like, not how good he was personally in the ring with his character and everything. He didn't win. Like, this guy really only beat Tito, and then he beat guys like Coco, these guys. He didn't beat like mid-card guys. I love the Model though, and I was starting to warm up to Michaels at this point. He's a nice mid-card guy, he can work, definitely talking on the mic well, and I started to put this match in. I'm like, this is going all right. They don't want to hit each other in the face, and it's going. And then Sherry passes out on the apron, and it just goes freaking downhill from there. I think they get out. They both like this might be. I mean, does this age? I mean, Me Too move. I mean, they're both like mounting her on. They're fighting to give her mouth to mouth. She's passed out. They're doing the cardiac arrest. They're trying to, CPR. They're trying to, and it was just so bad. Like, just over the top, comical, and it didn't come off well. The rest in the match was just terrible. And then it took them 10 years to get down the aisleway back in there. One dude's carrying her, the other guy pops him, he carries her. Then he comes back, he pops him, he wants to help her, and they just all the way back to the dressing room. It just turned into a very terrible match. I was going to use some choice words there, but it just, I like both guys. This match was just terrible because of the ending.
Yeah, and I was a huge Rockers fan. I loved the Rockers. And then they break up, the greatest breakup of all time. And then Michaels, they're doing this stuff with him, but it wasn't working for me right here, brother. His move is not the super kick at this point, which it should be. It's that side suplex, gut wrench side suplex thing. I don't know what the heck you call that.
Side suplex, I think it was.
Yeah, it was just kind of dumb. Thought his gear looked stupid. It just really wasn't working for me, and I was over the Model by this point. I liked the Model before he kind of had run his course, so I was just like, I don't really care about this too much. I will say Bobby is hilarious during this match. I always did think it was funny when Bobby would whistle Michael's music when he would do it every show. He would always whistle Michael's song. I thought that was great. But yeah, overall, it and the match ends.
Fans were confused too. I think if you listen, I think they're cheering Martel a little bit in this match. But again, it's one of those ones, and we can maybe talk on this later. A lot of face or heel here.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is strange.
Just not a huge fan of that, man. I only have a couple matches in which I've seen it work well.
Yeah, and you've got numerous on this card. So then we go into the tag team title match. The Disasters win the belt out of nowhere at a house show in Worcester, Mass. So they're the champions. They're fighting another fairly new team. I think they came in either late 91, early 92. The Beverly Brothers.
Terrible.
Which could be on the list, and no one remembers, but it could be on the list for worst gimmicks of all time. Apparently, they're supposed to be like rich kids from Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
They're wearing like some space camp outfits or something. Like, that's
stars,
not what rich
purple
kids.
Punks with stars on them or something.
Capes with like giant shoulder pads. Like, that's not what rich kids wear. Like, what are we doing here? It's bad. This match is bad. Go ahead. You got anything, or just move on?
It's awful. You can move on. I mean, the Beverly I'm not. And you trash them. You don't. The Rougeaus. These guys make the Rougeaus look like A-listers. They are. I think these guys are the tag teams of this era. They are right there with the Heavenly Bodies on my tag list. I mean, they're terrible. The Beverly Brothers were a turn off. Fast forward. Go shoot hoops in the front, until their match is over. Yep. I didn't want to see these guys. It's not good heat.
You suck, pal.
I will go do homework overwatch these guys. I mean, this is awful.
And it goes 10 minutes. It goes 10. And the Natural Disasters by this point are just like, they're good guys now. I'll tell you this. The place loves it when they win, maybe because they hated the Beverly Brothers, but they go crazy when the Disasters win. One thing, though, quickly on them, on the Beverlys, people loved them. When they were in the AWA, they were the Destruction Crew. And again, you want to talk about polar opposites. They go from the Destruction Crew to the Beverly Brothers.
I've never seen
you just neutered what made them good. And you gave them this, and they're with the Genius. It was just terrible. Which brings us, speaking of that word.
Terrible's the word of the day.
That's terrible.
Crush is post-demolition. He has kept his name. He's doing all sorts of promos where he just crushes things. Like he did one at a junkyard where there's a bunch of crushed cars stacked on top of each other. We're supposed to believe that he did that with his bare hands.
Yeah.
He is fighting. You want to talk about all-time bad gimmicks? The Repo Man.
Demolition Showdown here.
Yeah. Two former demos fighting each other. Nick, I literally have a little, I when I make my bullet points, I just put little dashes. I have a dash and nothing written. So I have nothing on this.
It was a bad match. The only thing I'll give it, I didn't realize Crush's finishing move actually hurt till I did it to my little brother. If you put your hands on someone's temples and just squeeze in, freaking thing does hurt. And I can imagine a big dude like with power just pushing your temples in. I mean, it looks like a stupid finishing move, but I did it and it hurt my brother. So I mean, that's the only thing I'll give it. I mean, but yeah, he's in these bright like orange and blue or whatever. Purple or whatever. It was just terrible. And the Repo Man, what an awful gimmick. I mean, these guys have fallen. Not that I was ever a fan of Crush and Demolition. I think that kind is where the demos start to fall downhill. But just, these guys, this is just another, again, we're not trying to rip on this thing, but these are just bad matches, I mean, and it's not just us. I mean, people don't look back. We're not the only people that hate the Repo Man or think Crush was a bad gimmick.
Right.
These are pretty synonymous with bad gimmicks.
Yeah. Yeah, this is I don't even know what happened. I quit watching when I'll admit I
Crush
barely
wins, I believe. He takes the match.
Yeah.
But
And I didn't even think Crush was that bad. Like I kind of wanted to like him,
he's
even though like those promos were stupid. Like I'm supposed to believe he crushed a car. Like, but there was something there. I just never found it.
Me and you did. I do like him when he fights, when he's the bad Crush and he
Right.
fights Savage. I know a lot of people didn't like that.
Right.
I thought that was his best run in the WWE.
And that's much later. But yes, it definitely was his best. No question. So now we go to one of the main events. Second time now, 2 pay-per-views in a row where the world title match is not the final match. It is the out of nowhere Ultimate Warrior against Macho Man. Probably your 2 biggest names, so they decided to go at each other. Now, what happened was Flair thought he should have been the number 1 contender. So he and Mr. Perfect devised some plan to say, hey, let's get in these guys' heads. He first goes to Macho and offers his services to be Macho Man's manager. Well, then the Warrior. So they do these face-offs, these face-to-faces, and Perfect says, I will be in one of these 2 guys' corners. Who's it going to be? Who sold out? Who's the one that sold out to Flair and Mr. Perfect? Nick?
I'm 12 or 13, and I'm still not buying. I'm not even. I know he's not. I mean, this is just dumb. Even through all the entire match, when he comes down and gets involved, and at one point I can't remember who he hits first or but he goes back. The announcers go back and forth. At 1 minute, he must be with the Warrior. He's hitting Sav, and you're like, really? The Warrior struck a deal from like parts unknown? Like, this is not a dude that you could even tell him he struck a deal with anybody. And I know Savage freaking hates Flair. He's not going to strike. It was almost like we don't know what to do with Flair and Perfect. Yeah. Well, Perfect's going to be in one of their corners. That's the thing to do. It just never took me, even as a young kid, an late adolescent, early teenager there. I didn't believe Perfect was going to be on. No, I didn't believe Perfect was going to be on either guy's side. The match is freaking long. To make matters worse, it ends in a freaking count out. That sucks. I mean, this has become kind of with SummerSlam synonymous. These big matches, you're going to get Earthquake and Hogan don't finish. Yoko and Luger don't finish around this era. These guys start getting, this one doesn't finish. The only thing I guess that I took in, the crowd was really behind the Warrior over Savage.
Big time.
Savage was the heel, according to the crowd. From what because I was really into watching the crowd the last time I watched this, just right. I wanted to see their reaction and how it went. But those were what I took away from the match. And I don't think it's the worst match in any sort of extent, but it's not a great match between these 2 guys. I mean, I know you hate the one at 7. The retirement match. I like that one way better. This match, and it bummed me out that it doesn't finish really. A count-out's just not what I wanted to see.
Perfect and Flair don't come down until the middle of the match. I thought before they came down, the match was fairly decent. I think it was better. It was better watching it this week than I remember it. But the reason I think that is, I'm just like you. I never bought for a second that one of these 2 guys was turning heel. Not for 1 second. I just like, that's not going to happen. Even though there are rumors now that back in the day, they originally planned on turning Warrior heel, and he said no. But believe that if you want. Yeah, they do that back and forth. First, they make you think that Macho sold out, and then they beat up the Warrior. So then you're just confused. What's going on here? They end up beating up both guys.
That's what you knew would happen. As soon as they were out there, like, these dinks are going to screw this freaking match up, right, and I'm not going to get a finish.
Macho jumping off the top rope to the outside. They hit him with the chair, and then they start working the knee, and that played into how Flair won the belt a couple of days later because he was selling the knee injury. But you think about it, man. You have Ric Flair on your roster. In reality, he played not much more of a role because, remember, it's whose corner is Mr. Perfect in. Flair played as much of a role as Rocco did on this card.
Yeah, he's the fourth wheel on a tricycle.
I mean, it just it 28 minutes. Again, it's not terrible.
No,
but before they beat up Macho, who ends up getting counted out because they're over there working him over, they drill Warrior with a chair. He's laying in the ring, out cold for a couple of minutes, and he's out the entire time they are beating up the Macho Man till he finally runs over there and stops him. Since you mentioned it, that beautiful WrestleMania 7 match that they had, that's quite possibly the most overrated match in the history of wrestling. You're telling me that the Ultimate Warrior can kick out of 5 elbows, just kick right out of him, but he gets hit with one chair and he's down for 5 minutes?
And
this is what you're telling me?
In his defense, he was auditioning for a future AEW match. Where nuclear weapons don't put you away, but like a microphone to the head does or something,
Oh.
No, I totally get that. Yeah, it's again, bad story writing.
The match and that's what everybody will tell you, that was one of the best storytelling matches ever.
No. Okay.
Maybe on paper, maybe in theory, but again, you got 2 12 and 13-year-olds that don't buy it from the jump.
Communism's great on paper too, dude. It just doesn't work.
Is it?
It's supposed to be great on paper. It just doesn't work. So, we're 13. We're the dudes you're selling this to.
Right.
My dad's already not buying it. So,
right.
whatever,
right.
We're not buying it.
I didn't buy it. I didn't. So then we get another out of nowhere match. The Taker is big at this point. No, he was big from the beginning, but he fights Kamala, and he's kind of doing like the Hogan thing here, like throw a monster at him. Well, here comes another monster. Your thoughts on this? Entrance was kind of cool. First time we'd seen the Taker do anything like that. He comes out on a hearse.
That was sweet. That was awesome. It was a cool entrance by the Taker. You're darn right on that, dude. Kamala's the problem. I mean, we're not two people who would be shy to take a shot at the Taker, but he's not the problem here. The Taker's over. The Taker is a big name at this point. Kamala is 6 years past relevancy,
at least,
or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
5 or 6, I guess.
He's a dude from that era of just big dudes. They were just big dudes that were, here's some dude to feed Hogan, and this guy is just awful. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know anything about the man personally, but I didn't buy him as ever standing a chance against the Undertaker. Right. You book him as fearful of the Undertaker and fearful of every person he fights when he comes back. He doesn't like Jake Snake. He don't, I don't know. He's probably afraid of Frenchie. I don't, he's like, I don't know. He just seems afraid of everything.
Oliver Humperdinck.
Yeah.
You run for your life.
This guy, though.
Rocco. No, not Rocco.
I remember hearing when I heard he was on that, I'm like, Kamala, are you freaking kidding me? Like, why? I've never been a big fan of this guy. I mean, you told me earlier, he fits in the Dungeon of Doom, and that's not a compliment.
Yeah, he's in the Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah, that's not a compliment at all. Like, it's not a good group. It's not a good match.
He beats him again by DQ. Another non-finish. Kim Chi gets in the ring, and they just start ringing the bell. And, dude, the crowd was hot for the Taker. They were hot. he's just dealing on him this entire match. I don't even know that Kamala gets in any offense. The crowd's going crazy. DQ finish, they just die. The crowd just, it was the most dead they were the entire night. I don't even think they were that dead when Repo Man took their hot dog from them. It was terrible. And then Kamala jumps off every rope. He splashes him off every single rope all the way up. And then Taker sits up, and then he gets scared. Like you said, he gets all freaked out. This was bad. This was another match, third match of the night, that they just delayed for later on. Going to the model, going to the macho match, they delayed for another date. And now this, just a no finish so they can finish it some other time. You're in front of 80,000 people, man. Finish it here. What are you doing? It just
piles on to everything we're saying. The LOD are not in the title match. I know it doesn't sound big. All these things start piling when you look at this card. These matches don't finish. I really feel it's not as great as people think it is. And
here's the point I forgot to say earlier on the Warrior Macho match. What's the match about? It's really it's not even about the title. It's who sold out to Mr. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
Well, so it's about a third wheel. Who's the manager going to be? Kind of almost like the HBK model match, wasn't it?
Yep.
Who's Sherry? Is she going to stay? Is she going to go? What are they fighting about? They're fighting over a manager. Like, they're telling the same stories even in this show.
Look at you, giant idiot.
Well, so there's that. Last match, dude. And everything we said, just flip it right back around. My favorite match of all time, Nick.
Definitely
go ahead,
top,
man.
Definitely. I don't know where I have it because it's not. I don't think it's my favorite of all time, but it's definitely a freaking top 5 from of all time. I think it's an amazing match. I mean, you did as good as you could to put some sort of feud together here, right? They brought in the Hart family. Bulldog's wife is torn between her brother Bret, her husband Davey. They did this whole backstory. It's tearing the family apart. I think the family members even took sides, if I'm not mistaken. There were certain ones that did.
Bruce Hart and Owen.
And the whole place, I mean, they go nuts obviously for the Bulldog when he comes out, and you couldn't have been luckier to work with Bret, man. I mean, this match is money in the making. I mean, it is just so stinking amazing all the way down to the finish of it. It was awesome. You didn't know who was going to win. And when he won, it's probably the biggest match in the British Bulldog's career.
No question.
It's an awesome match. If you have not seen the SummerSlam, I would recommend just going and watching this match. It is it will hold up. And this is for anybody out there. I know we take jabs, and I know whatever. If you are one of these people who is a cruiserweight fan in WCW, or you're a workaholic today, this is your match. But it's 28 years ago, and they're doing you could put that match on today, and it would be the best match of the week this week. Like, that's how freaking good it is.
This year.
Yes. And I'm not, that's not a shot. I believe we are in the workers' age. These are the greatest workers we've ever seen. A total in the ring. I mean, everybody can work,
right.
These two still would have, this match is still just that awesome. Bulldog walks away with the IC gold. It's incredible.
Well, dude, and here's why it's awesome. Dude, everything in this match is so precise.
Yes.
Like, they don't do, there is a few moves in there that are kind of crazier moves, like when Bret goes over the top, flips over it, grabs Bulldog's head, and then slams it down. That's something like we've never seen before. But like, everything is built around, and people are going to go, oh, what? Everything is built around what they now call rest holds. But this was really a wrestling match. They are in a hold, headlock, leg lock, arm lock. and they sit there for like a minute. Then they get up and they go boom, 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 boom. Somebody hits the final big move, which is laid in like a live round. You think that this dude really got drilled. Then he goes right back to the arm, holds on the arm for a minute or so. They come back, boom, 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 boom. Final crucifix, boom. And it's not just one of those little, he takes him and slams him down in the crucifix. The Bulldog, he nailed him. Knee to the stomach, he nails him. Bret hits Bulldog in the face with a drop kick that you think he killed him. I mean, they are laying it in. Everything is snappy, quick, boom, boom, boom. He tries to put the sharpshooter on, laying on the ground. We had never seen him do that before, just laying there. He gets out. He kicks out of the power slam, which we've never seen before. Then the finish, just like WrestleMania 8, a finish we've never seen before from Bret Hart. Goes for the sunset flip, leaves his legs up. Bulldog grabs him, lays him down. 1, 2, 3, right in the center of the ring.
Out of nowhere.
It's
I mean, you didn't
out of nowhere.
You didn't know when that match was going to end. You didn't even get a feel it was going to end right there.
No,
but it did. You know, I mean, it was great, and it wasn't like and I'm not ripping. I mean, you can throw Hogan in here. You could throw Hogan in there, Flair in there. Whoever's your favorite or whatever. A lot of their matches became standard. You know, the Flair, it's a very similar match a lot of times. I'm not ripping on him. He's one of the greatest.
There was nothing standard here.
Nothing. It was all, you didn't know which way this was going. This was not a standard Bret Hart match. This was not a standard British Bulldog match. This was a match you'd never seen before. And like you said, it was poetry in motion, man. It was just movement after movement. And it looked like they must have choreographed this thing and wrestled this thing for a month beforehand.
Right. And according to Bret, he didn't even know if Davey was going to get to the ring because he'd been strung out and all this. And apparently he had a staph infection. And they go out and they do this. Or maybe not a staph infection. He had some infection. I don't remember what it was. And then the crowd. The crowd is just electric. I don't think it was quite WrestleMania 18 Rock Hogan, but it's right there, man. They're awesome. Going crazy the whole time.
And I'm not always a fan.
Just awesome, man.
I'm not always a fan of just giving, like, God knows me and you hated every time Regal went overseas. He got to win the European or IC title. You know, I'm not just a fan of letting guys win because they're in the country that they were in. This was the right time, though. This was the right guy won this, and this is coming. Bret Hart's one of my top 3 guys. I love that guy. It was awesome that the Bulldog took this match.
And so they're celebrating afterwards, and Vince is just he is like all-time Vince here. Just, again, the grandeur! What a SummerSlam! He keeps saying, what a SummerSlam. He must say it 5 times. What a SummerSlam! But it is. That match makes it worth watching. It definitely does. So that's that, Nick. Let's go into a couple questions. We probably have answered some of these along the way, but
sure.
Bobby Heenan and Vince are your commentators, which we didn't mention that exactly at the top of the show, but Bobby Heenan and him are the commentators. Bobby is always good for a couple of lines, but there are a few things in here. What's your line of the night?
Mr. Perfect calling Mean Gene Okerlund a divot head. And I also take personal offense to that now. Probably was more funny when I was a kid. Not so funny now, Kurt. It's why we wear the hats when we're on the show, right?
But one of us. I'm not quite. I kind of got 2 divots going a little bit, man.
But yeah, no, it was, and the way Perfect just delivers his insults, he's money. I don't know where I have him on the all-time list. On my personal, guys that I like, he's definitely somewhere around 10 to 15. I mean, I love that guy. He's freaking awesome.
I've heard Rude say divot head before to him, but the way he does it here, he's screaming at him, "Hey, shut up, little man, divot head." It's almost like our boy Ed when he delivered. It was very good.
It was great.
It was very good. Mine comes from there was another one. Where Heenan says, "I don't know why the Bulldog let Whoopi Goldberg do his hair." That one was pretty good. But the best one of the night comes at the very beginning. The very, very beginning when they're outside interviewing little kids about SummerSlam and everything. And this kid gets all tough and he looks at the camera and he's like, the British Bulldog is going to win whether he likes it or not.
Well,
like, hey, Bulldog, you're going over tonight. Oh, no, I don't know. No, you're going over tonight. Don't make me pull
I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea.
Whether he likes it or not. I'm pretty sure he likes it, little fella.
Yep. The kid's trying to
and
cut
the
a
way
promo.
he does, too. He's looking right in the camera, man. Whether he likes it or not. Like, easy, little fella.
It's great.
I just gave away my funniest moment of the night. I told you about Virgil earlier, snot dripping out of his nose. But the Whoopi Goldberg line was my favorite. That's my funniest moment of the night.
I'm going to go with the commentary during the Martel Sherry match by Bobby Heenan. If you get a chance, I'm not going to go and say everything he says because I don't know if it's even appropriate at this point to say everything Bobby says. But if you get a chance to go back and he's, because Sherry is wearing a very provocative, maybe right out of the Prince closet, if you will. If anybody knows what I mean there. We
can put a picture up.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Hopefully we can. We don't get censored for that.
Yeah, but check out the commentary on Bobby. I think that's hysterical when he's talking about Sherry and during the Martel Michaels match.
Yeah, let's just say the moon was out that night.
Moon over Miami or something.
The moon over Miami. Yeah, that's what he said, actually. Why is the crowd singing moon over Miami? How about what has aged the best? What has aged the best here? And you kind of stole my thunder when you said it a minute ago. The Bret Bulldog match, to me, is what's aged the best. People today want to see nothing but high spot, kick out, young bucks, all this stuff. To me, I think you could put this match on and people would appreciate it even today, even the high spot fest people. This match was awesome. I think it ages best today.
I'm seconding that. It's not just a great match. It is one of the greatest matches, not in the WWE, not in the WWF. It's one of the greatest matches in wrestling history.
How about what has aged the worst, Nick? Is there anything that's aged really bad?
Half of the characters on this card. I'm sorry. I for the people that love this pay-per-view, again, awesome. I'm glad you did. But Crush, not cool as Kahuna Crush. Repo Man, terrible. Kamala, terrible at this point. The Beverly Brothers, I'm going to just puking through talking about them. It is just a nightmare of bad gimmicks. I mean, and people, we kind of, even some of the ones we remember today, like they'll bring back Tatanka. I'm sorry, I did not like Tatanka in the day. I did not think he was great. I mean, again, I don't think he was the worst wrestler. He was big. But the gimmick where he came down, he was a Native American rolling around the ring. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
It sucked. It stunk.
I'm fine with doing something for your heritage. It just was cheesy to me.
Nails.
There were just so many bad Earthquake and Typhoon.
I want to be a tugboat.
I mean, as heels, they were okay as a tag team. As a face, not going well with me. Yeah, you said Nails. Virgil is done at this point. A lot of bad gimmicks.
Well, and we didn't even mention the guys that were in feuds. All that stuff we talked about before. Papa Shango, the Berserker, Tatanka. These guys, the Bushwhackers, the Mountie, these guys were on El Matador. They were supposed to be on the show, and they ended up getting relegated to the dark matches. And this is just the beginning, too, Nick. Like, the worst gimmicks are even coming.
This is the beginning of this period.
Yeah. Worst for me, you had 3 or 4 big matches on this card, and 3 of the 4 ended in count out or DQ.
Bogus!
This is the biggest SummerSlam ever. 80,000 people, the only pay-per-view ever across the pond. Your world title match didn't finish. Your Don't Punch Me in the Face match didn't really finish, and your Undertaker match didn't finish.
In my opinion, that sucked.
It doesn't work for me, brother. The most rewatchable scene is what, Nick? If you want to go back and you just want to see something, what are you going to see?
And again, I'm not the hugest fan of this pay-per-view, but the opening camera pan, as they go over there it is, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, for people today, we've had some pretty big WrestleManias in the past few years where they've put together a pretty large crowd.
Yeah.
We did not have this. We had not seen this anything remotely close since WrestleMania 3, and WrestleMania 3 blew our minds when we looked over and it panned through the Pontiac Silverdome and we saw that. To see this 80,000 plus in this stadium, I got goosebumps just watching it when that was like one of the best. I'm like, holy crap, one of the best moments of the show. Like, this is awesome. And the fans are hyped. The fans are into it. It's not a dead 80,000. It's an excited, energetic 80,000. It's a happening.
It's a happening. Here's the biggest thing, too. There weren't sets back then. There was no set. Like, when they had that light up, fluorescent color light up thing, first time they ever had that was WrestleMania 8. And then maybe you would get that big WWF logo. That's all you would ever get. There weren't sets back then. So when you saw something like this, I mean, it was awesome. It was a total different ball game.
Yep. Yes,
I had the same exact thing for most rewatchable, just seeing that. Best moment of the night.
Bulldog celebrating in the ring, fans going nuts. I think we share this one too. I mean, it was just the right guy won in front of the right crowd, and it created a really special moment for those people too that are Londoners, Englanders, wherever this stuff. It was cool. It really was. That would be. I'll be short and sweet. British Bulldog, him winning the title, standing in there with Bret, standing in there with Diana, I believe was her name.
Yep.
And
still is.
That was a cool moment.
Yeah, I got the same thing. And mine, the finish is the best moment. Like that pinning awesome. Combination, like never had we seen that. And the crowd just goes banana when that happens.
Very cool.
Skip Bayless time, Nick. Your hottest take of the night. What is your hot take?
This pay-per-view is way overrated. It's a one-match pay-per-view. This thing is terrible. I'm sorry. And you're talking to dudes that, like, we defend this era.
Yeah. I was still watching everything.
Me too. These are dudes that, I mean, I'm getting to the point where some of these gimmicks are starting to turn me off, but I was still invested. This pay-per-view is a one-match card. That is it. And I'm not. You can even throw the dark matches in there. I don't care. It's terrible.
Yeah.
That would be my. It's a one-match card. Lo and behold, it's one of the greatest matches, but it's only got one. The rest of the pay-per-view is awful.
I can't believe I got the same thing again, dude. And I was absolutely shocked when I became a subscriber to the Torch and I started going through and reading all these retro torches that I'd never read or seen before. And when I got to this, and everybody loved the thing. And I'm like, really? I don't know anybody that thinks this outside of that last match. Maybe a few other things are decent. But I don't know anybody that thinks this is good. So I went and found the Observer, and they praised this up and down. Huge success. One of the greatest SummerSlams of all time. Like, all I heard was just how great this was. And I could not believe it. I just could not believe people thought this was that good. Maybe it's because we always say the thing that happens last, the WrestleMania 17 syndrome.
Right.
What happened at the end of that ruined the entire night for me. So maybe what happened at the end of this made it great for everybody. But they love the Taker. They love the punch in the face. I mean, but the match, they love the punch in the face. The Warrior Savage match is 4+ stars on everything I've ever seen.
Freaking
and I just don't get it, man. Best match of the night. We don't even need to say that.
No.
Nitpick. What would you change here? If you were going to complain about anything tiny, I guess, since we complained about a lot on this show, what would it be?
Ric Flair. Why isn't he on the card? Why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, Tatanka is there. I mean, throw him in the ring with freaking Tatanka. I mean, I'm not whoever. Throw him in the ring with Crush. Throw him in the ring with somebody. I mean, this is Ric frickin' Flair.
Mine is LOD Money Inc. Obviously, there was behind-the-scenes issues there, which we talked about, but I would have loved to see that for the belts. The tag division was so poor at this time. You got the Disasters and the Beverleys, the Bushwhackers, and the Nasty Boys. That's like all you had.
French Canadians or I think the Amazing, or are they there
yet? They weren't even there yet.
No.
The Mounties, still the Mountie.
Still the Mountie. That's right.
Yeah.
I think the Nasty Boys are still there.
Two more quick ones. Yeah, they're in the opener of the dark match. Who won SummerSlam 1992?
British Bulldog. British Bulldog. This is his moment in time. I don't know. This is his moment in time. This is it. I mean, because I mean, after this, he's fired shortly after. I don't think he comes back. I mean, I guess you could argue. I liked him and Owen in the tag team. I was a fan of those guys, but I still don't think it's as big a moment as this. The British Bulldog wins the night.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay.
Bret Hart won the night. Bret Hart carried that match. They probably figured they knew in the back what was going on, that Bret carried it. Bret, even at the end, it's about Bret. Because Bret wants to leave the ring and they start booing, and then he wants to leave again and he starts booing, and then he gets back in. Even after losing, it's still about Bret at the end. And then a month and a half later or whatever it is, he's the world champion.
Yeah, they're going to go with him, so they can't bury it. They don't want to bury this guy.
He proved in this that I can be in the last match, and even though obviously there's circumstances, but that's the best WWE match, at least since Savage Steamboat. I mean, that's the best match since Savage Steamboat 5 years earlier.
5 years.
He also had an amazing match against Piper a few months earlier, and he proved, you know what, we can go with this guy. We will be okay. He will make fans go crazy. And, yeah, Bret won to me. Well, Nick, that's it, man. Appreciate it, everybody. Much more coming throughout the week. We'll see you then.
Pleasure's all yours, Bucky boys.